What's up, everybody? Jamie here, the Absolute Basketball Experience. In today's episode, we caught up with newly hired UNC Pembroke head coach Drew Richards. We talked about his playing days as a nationally ranked player and going pro. We talked about his climb into becoming a sought-after head coach, and we discussed collard green sandwiches, grape ice cream, and how it's a can't-miss experience. Before we jump into it, be sure you subscribe to the channel and click the bell for notifications. If you enjoy the interview, please be sure to share it across your platforms and comment below. I'm eager to hear what you are doing during this quarantine to stay in shape. Please make sure to put that in the comments. But without further ado, here is our interview with UNC Pembroke head coach Drew Richards on the Absolute Basketball Experience. All right, guys. So what's up here? This is Jamie Shaw. I'm here with newly crowned UNC Pembroke head coach Drew Richards. First off, Drew, getting into this thing, congrats on getting the job. Kind of coming home of sorts for you. This is a special place. What was it like, getting the call, going through the interview, taking the job, congratulations on all that. What did it go like?
Thank you. Appreciate you having me. It was a very odd time, just for being there so long and then leaving and then obviously coming back. So, it's not really the way people probably scripted it or what we foresee, whenever we left and took the job at Lander. But like you said, it's coming home. I mean, we love UNC Pembroke. We love the area. We love the people. That's where both our children were born. To me, it was like you said, it was kind of a homecoming of sorts. That's literally the longest we've lived anywhere outside of our hometowns in Missouri. It's the longest we've lived anywhere in our adult lives. So to get the opportunity to come back, it was really hard to pass on.
Yeah, absolutely. And, before we kind of get into the nuts and bolts of this thing, how's it going being quarantined with two young kids so far?
Well, I think after this is all said and done, I think two people need to get raises, and there's healthcare workers and there's teachers. They need to get paid six figures because what they put up with and what they go through and trying to teach and have patience and stuff, I just don't think I'm cut out for it. So God bless teachers. God bless my wife that stay at home or are angels dealing with children during the day.
I couldn't imagine. I'm sitting here, my little one gets up at 8 a.m. and she's nonstop wall to wall until 10 p.m.
Yep.
It's tiring, but it's also, I'm running out of creative ways to keep her happy and interested and not, climbing on the chandelier and stuff. It's been an unreal experience these last, 2 weeks. And like you said, my wife, I mean, gosh, she does it every day. I'm just sitting here these last 2 weeks pulling my hair out.
Well, and this is when they need to get a Frozen 3 and a Frozen 4 and Olaf's Journey 5. I mean, if they had all those, I wouldn't be as busy during the day. But we're waiting for those sequels to come out.
Oh, no question. Well, we just watched last night Trolls World Tour. I guess they released yesterday on Fandango or whatnot. You could watch it at home. Kind of an ingenious thing. Instead of going to the theater, they released over streaming, and I'm sure it was unreal. But yeah, so we probably gonna watch that about 4 times again today. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, we did Onward the other day. Disney Plus Onward was a really good movie, and I can't wait to be able to watch it 18 times in the next 24 hours so I can just know the plot by heart.
Absolutely. So moving on real quick, I guess, to you as a player, doing a little bit of research, you were ranked 108 in the country in the 2004 class.
Wow.
That class, Dwight Howard, Rajon Rondo, Rudy Gay, Marvin Williams, Big Baby Davis, J.R. Smith. And even, on the back end of the top 50, you had guys like Roy Hibbert, Jeff Green, DeMare Carroll. How would you describe your game, first off? And then how did you go about getting seen coming out of Logan Rogersville High School in Missouri?
Well, one, I wasn't very good at basketball for a while. It's just truth.
It didn't take a little bit longer.
It did, yeah. And, it's kind of that's why everyone's kind of got their own journey. I mean, I shouldn't have started for my 8th grade team. I was only on varsity as a freshman because I was 6'5". I was real thin. I really didn't buy into wanting to be a really good player until really before my sophomore year. After my freshman year, going to my sophomore year is when I you got to get that passion, you got to get that love, and you got to put the work in. And I did. I mean, I was working 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. 5 days a week. I mean, just trying to get better. I was trying to be a sponge. I was trying to learn everything I can. And I don't know what, there wasn't one thing that caused that to happen. It's just, I think it just happens if you want to be a player, you work at it. And so, and then obviously started playing better. I really didn't get any college recruitment until going into my junior year. I think I remember the first school that reached out was University of Missouri Rolla, and I was the happiest person in the world. I didn't want to be an engineer, but it was an option, I guess, and that kind of stoked the flame, and I started playing with AAU and trying to hit up as many events as possible, but even outside of AAU, AAU, that's one way to get looks, but you got to continue improving, got to keep working on your game. And we had a close knit group, and we continued playing, and there was a lot of camaraderie there, and I think that helped us continue to be successful. And obviously, we try to tell players all the time, the more you win, the more attention you're going to get. So we started winning some things, finishing in tournaments, and that's when my recruitment kind of exploded. I went from low major schools to getting Coach Bob Knight coming to my house and doing an in-home visit, and Stan Heath at Arkansas, and talking to Coach Howland at UCLA, and it kind of went from nothing to crazy, overwhelming, very, very quickly.
Well, and for you, we were talking a little bit about this beforehand, but you did both routes. You went playing for a high-level AAU team that was loaded with Division I high major talent, and then you also played with a local team where you were the man and able to go get loose for 25 and 10 every night. What were those two experiences like, and what advice would you give players who are kind of stuck in the middle right there of being winning on a high-level team and not getting as many minutes, or going to a local team and being the man? What's your thought process there?
Well, I went, like you said, I went and played for the St. Louis Eagles for 2 or 3 tournaments. We had, I think our starting lineup was like Brandon Rush, Tyler Hansborough, Kalen Grimes, to name a few, Tommy Liddell that went SLU. I mean, we had probably 9 to 10, quote unquote, mid-major to high major Division I guys. I think we were the 4th ranked team in the nation behind the New York Gauchos. And so, I mean, that was a great experience, being around really great players. I mean, you really felt like kind of a celebrity. I mean, everywhere you went, there were people, and Nike was sending you stuff, and it was it was a great deal. But for me, and I was getting some looks just playing a role, which was, I totally bought in. I think the most overused, uncommon knowledge in basketball, especially the recruiting thing, is you don't have to score 20 points a game to be recruited. If you play your role and buy into what you do very well, and try to not do your weaknesses and try to emphasize your strengths, and you find a coach that sees that in you, I think that's the most important thing. And I mean, I had a small role on a really, really good AAU team. But ultimately I found success in friends of mine that I had been playing with since freshman year in high school. And after trying out the big time, Boo Williams tournaments and things, I just didn't feel it was right for me. And I felt a connection with those guys. And, even playing with a smaller AAU team, I didn't really care about colleges coming to the games and things. I wanted to play with my friends. And I think that goes hand in hand. If I was connected with those guys, we played better, we cared about each other, and then ultimately the more success we had, college coaches started coming. And to this day, I'm still great friends with almost all those guys. I mean, we're still in touch to this day. So I think everyone has their own path, everyone has their own journey. But for me, it was more important about the camaraderie, the closeness, the tight-knit of the team. And I think that caused, just because we worked hard together and we bought in, I think that caused recruitment to naturally kind of happen.
Absolutely. And then I guess progressing on, we've touched on a little bit your actual recruitment. You had the likes of Ben Howland at UCLA coming in. You had listed offers from Arkansas, Texas Tech, but you ended up at Missouri State. What all went into that decision for you, and what was that process like?
I mean, it was insane, to be honest. I mean, it's hard to describe all the tension, because, I mean, you've seen firsthand how recruiting explodes. I mean, you go from nothing to something, and it just goes nuts. And for me, it was always about, always wanted to see, because I was very close to my high school teammates, my AU teammates. My biggest thing was, I didn't really care about level. I wanted to go to the place where the team seemed the closest, that there was that camaraderie, that tight knit, because I want these guys to be friends of mine 20 years from now. And, the more I got to know the Missouri State players, how hard the staff worked to recruit me. And, I think there was a famous recruiting guy. I remember watching him speak, and he said, the level you're getting, the top level you're getting recruited, if you go under that level, typically your career goes a little bit more than what you want. Could I have played a high major? Probably in a role? Yes, absolutely. But I wanted to go someplace that I could have an impact, that I could be tight with my team, that we could go be successful. And then ultimately at Missouri State, we end up averaging 20 wins a year, 3 postseason appearances. We were able to do some really great things because I think understanding what you want to do, what you want to do, and transferring back then wasn't as big of a deal. So it wasn't like, oh, I can go here, and then if I don't like it, I'll transfer. It wasn't that. It was, I'm going to go here. I want to have as much of an opportunity to have an impact as possible from day one. And I want to do it with guys that I truly care about, the staff that really wants me. And I think we try to use that in our recruitment as well, because the way the Missouri State staff recruited me was incredible. I mean, they did everything possible to try to get me in a Missouri State jersey. And I think that much attention, that much communication, that much just love, outpouring of love, I think it really showed that they wanted me to be involved. And I felt like that was a huge reason why Missouri State ended up being the choice.
So I guess you were able to parlay at Missouri State your per 40 senior year stats of 17.9, 9.3 boards, 3.4 blocks into a German pro league, I guess, playing pro overseas, where you were top 15 in blocks and rebounds in the entire league. What was the entire experience, your playing experience collegiately, professionally, all that stuff? What was that whole experience like?
I mean, it was awesome. It was challenging. It was terrifying. It was everything. I mean, it's everything you want. I mean, it's literally shared suffering with your teammates, going through, the rigors of preseason two-a-days, and then, getting to a point where, we go from that and blood, sweat, and tears and guys puking on themselves during conditioning to, we're playing at Freedom Hall on ESPN against Louisville. Taekwon Dean drops 28 on us and beats us in the Elite Eight of the NIT. I mean, that journey and that process, all the sacrifices, all the hard work is totally worth it. And then, of course, going through college and being lucky enough, I didn't have the greatest individual career in college, but, the fact that I was a huge piece of a really good team, that helped me continue to play professionally. And we had several guys, 3 or 4 guys that went on to play professionally off our teams, including like Blake Ahern, who was a junior. When I was a junior, he was a senior. He played in the NBA. Mm-hmm. And, that's what you try to express to these guys. There's a lot of guys that, I want to play pro, I want to play pro. Well, typically the professional ranks don't look at guys that average 25 on a bad team. They look at guys that have a great role that average 12 or 13 points on a really good team, that they know they can buy into that role and buy into being a part of a good team and not being a stud on a bad team. And that's why I got my opportunity overseas. Other coaches in the league had called for me, and then going on playing in Germany. I think, you talk about all the hard work and all you put in, and then you sign that FIBA contract and everything is worth it. And my professional career wasn't very long, but always, in my mind, I always want to say, hey, at one point I was paid decent money to be a professional basketball player. And that was what I accomplished.
Absolutely. And now I guess I can see some parallels between your playing career and going through as a recruit to kind of your coaching. You spoke about getting recruited at the highest level and choosing the school who fits you best. And you talk about, buying into your role and parlaying that into getting paid to play basketball, and having that experience. How would you say your experience as a player, going through the whole process, playing and everything, helps you relate to these players, both that you are coaching and also in the recruitment process?
That's a great question, because I think a lot of, as much as there's differences from today because of social media and because of kind of an instant gratification that you see, I think there's a lot of also similarities with, like you said, the fact that it's really hard to convince a guy sometimes to buy into a role instead of trying to be the guy that takes all the shots, but the fact that the guy that buys into the role has a better shot of having a good career and parlaying that into some professional opportunities is way more important. I think a lot of that, I think even, there were some disappointments in my playing career that I wish I would have done better or worked harder and things. I think that helps me become a better coach, because I want to push these guys. I don't want guys to have a sting of disappointment in their playing career like I did a little bit. I don't want them to go, I don't want them to be disappointed in wins and losses when it comes down to it. So I think knowing that and have a feel of that before, I think being able to push guys and making them want to be successful and making sure we recruit the guys that fit, that are willing to buy into maybe taking less shots, but maybe they're going to rebound a little bit more, or maybe they're going to not pass as much, but they're going to defend a little bit more. I think trying to identify guys willing to sacrifice for the greater good. I think that experience as a player helped me see and analyze exactly what we need on our team or the team that I'm coaching for us to be successful.
Absolutely. And kind of moving on to that into your coaching ranks, you're in a unique position that you've been hired, but you're not able to really be with your team right now.
Yeah.
I guess making it even more unique is you have a relationship already with a lot of these kids, being that, you were gone for such a short period of time and you maybe helped recruit a lot of them and all that kind of stuff. Um, what are you doing during this time, I guess, to kind of get ingratiated or understanding or knowing your players and your current roster during this, time of quarantine?
I mean, that's the fact that I'm familiar with the roster, I think is huge. I think if I was going into a situation blindly that I wasn't aware, like for example, getting the job at Lander last year, if this same situation was going, I might be losing my hair. Because I don't know the players. I'm not able to work them out. I'm not able to get a feel for their game or what's important to them or their goals or their team individual goals and things like that. You can do Zoom, FaceTime, all that stuff, meetings, which we've done team meetings on Zoom and things like that. But ultimately, to sit across from a person face to face and be able to talk about their background and what caused them to choose the university and their goals and all that, I think is really important. But knowing a lot of the players, I mean, I'd say 98% of the players that are on UNCP's roster right now are guys we brought in when I was able to be a part of the staff. So that level of familiarity is huge. So I can call, their AD or their high school coach or their mom or dad and talk to them about issues if there's any, or be able to FaceTime them because I already have their contact information, or, I know their schedule and things like that. So that's been huge. I was able to get to campus initially before the quarantine, the stay-at-home order was really emphasized. So able to get boots on the ground, if you will, and talk to our associate coach, Tony Jones, and our assistant coach, Connor Keltner, and be able to sit down and map out kind of what we look for our recruiting and X's and O's and all that stuff for next year. But like I said, I would be losing my mind if there wasn't that level of familiarity with guys that we have returning or guys that are going to be big pieces to us moving forward.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a unique place to be in. But you brought up Lander. Year one as a collegiate head coach, you go 23-8, the most wins in Lander in the last 20 years. You win the Peach Belt Conference title. I mean, is this thing easy?
No, gosh, no. It's terrifying, and it's so much worse as a head coach as far as the pressure. And I mean, I people ask me, about the moving the chair over, and it is a huge difference being the guy that makes suggestions to the head coach, and whether he uses them or not, you've done your job as an assistant.
Yeah.
And then being the guy that has to decipher the suggestions and then apply them. And if they work, great, you look like a genius. If they don't, then you look stupid. So, but yeah, I mean, that was a big part of just getting acclimated to the head coaching ranks and trying to make sure we're doing the things that we think are going to cause us to have some success.
And, having that type of success at Lander, you have some familiarity coming back and everything. But you got drawn to this UNCP job. What makes UNCP special for you, your family, and made this the no-brainer decision for you?
I mean, outside of just our feelings about home and things, I just think UNC Pembroke is as special as a university as I've ever been a part of. Even as a player, as a coach, I've been a part of 4, 5, or 6 different universities, and I've never seen the level of care, of buy-in, of just truly being proud to be a Brave. And like to use the terminology of family, I have our family, but then there's the Brave family, and that includes not only our current players, but our former players, our alumni, our administration, even those in the community. I mean, they in that area around UNCP, they live and breathe Braves basketball, and that's why we've led the league in attendance 5 out of the last 6 years. I mean, the town is so small, but it's incredible how the draw and the turnout for the games are, because they love Braves basketball. And, I get goosebumps talking about it because that's the feeling you get whenever you walk into Jones and you walk into the bank and being able to see the crowds and how much they care. And we've got a group of about 12 or 16 guys called Mickey's Maniacs that tailgate before every game, and they're screaming and yelling and they're getting the crowd pumped up. I mean, it is an unbelievable situation. And, like I said, I mean, I think outside of just how beautiful the university is and, having around 8,000 students and it being a good sized university and I mean, all the other academic things that go along with it, I just think ultimately the amount that they care, the amount of care in the community and how much they are proud to be a Brave, I think surpasses any other place I've ever been.
And you speak of that community, you speak of the atmosphere and everything. How surprised are recruits when you get them on? How surprised are they when you get them on campus for games? And how important is that in your recruiting to get kids on campus to experience that whole atmosphere at UNCP?
Well, I mean, our campus is beautiful, and it's a big campus, but it's not too big, and it's well kept, and there's a clock tower and a pond and a bridge, and I mean, it's a legit college campus. We have our football stadium, and get recruits on campus and be able to tailgate before football games, or to be able to do things like that really makes it feel like a legit college experience. It's tough right now, especially with kids not being able to see it. But when kids come into when recruits come to games and they see the atmosphere, they see the enthusiasm, not just of oh, there's people in seats, but it's they're engaged, they're screaming, they're yelling at the other team, they're yelling at the officials, yelling at each other, yelling at the coaches. I mean, they're yelling at, I mean, it's an exciting, enthusiastic type atmosphere. And then being able to see that coupled with the campus and being able to walk from our our brand new dorms to our brand new school of business that's being built, and from end to end, I think it's such a unique experience because it is a rural campus. We aren't exactly in a metropolis, if you will, but it is its own entity within the city. And then you're right 10 minutes from 95 and you're 10 minutes from 74. So you can literally get anywhere in the state of North Carolina in 2 hours. So not only are you get to have that great college experience that you're on your own, you're living the college life, you're loving it where you're at. And then you're also able to, on the weekends, if you need to get out and go someplace, or if you need to run home real quick, there's all the accessibility as possible. It's kind of a beautiful mix of not only having your own thing, being able to do your own thing at a great university, and then it's also being able to get anywhere in the state as quick as possible.
Absolutely. And you kind of cut your teeth yourself in the JUCO world. How do you think, that quick roster turnover and the low budgets and all that kind of stuff, working and having success in that type of JUCO environment, helped you be more successful coming to a 4-year type school where the roster turnover isn't as great and you have a little bit more money to work with and all that kind of stuff? How do you think the JUCO world helped train you or get you ready for where you're at right now?
Well, I try to tell, there's a lot of people that like to get into coaching, former players or whoever would like to get into college coaching. And the first thing I tell them is you need to get your master's and you need to go coach junior college. At junior college, you literally wear every single hat. And, in my personal experience, it was very humbling because, I was coming off a professional contract. I played quote unquote Division I basketball. I thought I was hot stuff. And then the first time the laundry wasn't done, I get chewed out for 2 hours from a guy that never really played big time basketball, but he's been working his way up through coaching. Coach Walker gave me my first job. So once I realized no one cares what you've done. All that matters is now what you do to show these players and this staff that you care, that you want to be involved, that you want to do everything for them. And after that realization, after that butt chewing, it changed my entire approach to college coaching. I think as a JUCO coach, and this is a lot to do with lower level basketball as well, or quote unquote lower level basketball, but where you don't have 18 managers, but sweeping the floors and filling up the water bottles and walking kids to class and study hall at night from 7 to 9, 5 days a week. And, I think at junior college, you especially have to be involved in every asset. You're a psychologist, you're a tutor, you're a coach, a recruiter. You're transport. You're doing everything. And I think able to have a hand in multiple pots. And I was literally getting paid $0. My first 2 years at college coaching, I made nothing. So it always makes me laugh whenever you get emails from people looking for a full-time job that have never coached in their life. But yeah. Everybody's got stories about sacrificing early on and being able to work their way into being a college coach. And that was my route. My route was volunteering at a junior college. And then luckily I had Coach Walker, Coach Van Riesen, are two guys that really, put up with me being kind of arrogant at start and then humbling me and then letting me grow and giving me freedom and allowing me to coach and skill develop and things like that. And after the 2 years there, getting paid nothing and trying to put everything I can into that, luckily a full-time position came along, and sometimes that happens. Sometimes it's 3 or 4 years of not getting paid anything before an opportunity comes along.
I guess keeping on that recruiting front, you're notorious for sitting in a gym early, getting out late, watching all the games.
Notorious. Thanks.
Yeah, grinding on the trail, sitting in there and finding players and suffering through the back gym games to find a gym. What is it that you look for? I guess this is kind of, what is it that you look for in a player that will get you to circle the name and follow up with them when you're sitting there watching him, maybe not having seen him before? What are some traits? What are some attributes? What are some things that players can do to catch the eye of a head coach such as yourself?
And I think a lot of that is tailored to each coach's system. I know there's two trains of thoughts. It's let's get the most talented player possible and adhere to the system, or this is our style of play. Let's try to find players that fit. And there's been successes both ways. So for us, I think the last thing which this is probably a dinosaur term, but last thing we really look for is ability to shoot the basketball.
Yep.
Be honest with you, we look for guys that have great feel, that first of all, that play hard, that are tough, that are good teammates. That it doesn't matter how talented you are. It doesn't matter any of the boxes below. Hard playing, tough, good teammate. If you don't check those three boxes, we don't recruit you. And so once those three boxes are checked, we look for guys with great feel, guys that can impact the game in other ways outside of shooting the basketball. Like I said, there's a lot of guys, to me, there's a lot of guys that can shoot the rock. I mean, there's guys at the Y that we could go play right now that shoot the crap out of it that are like 50 years old. But how do you impact the game outside of shooting the basketball? Do you defend? Do you rebound? Do you make the right play? Do you make the extra pass? Do you dive on the floor after a loose ball? Those are all the other things. Do you score in other ways other than shooting three? Do you attack? Do you plant 2 feet when you get to the paint? We try to break it down, especially for our perimeter players, on how else do they impact the game outside of shooting the basketball. And then, to me, it's our job once they get to us, if they don't shoot the ball great from three, it's our job to help them shoot the ball better, to shoot higher percentages. And Brandon Watts is a great example of that. Brandon Watts had the ugliest shot in the history of basketball when he came out of high school at Weddington, like chicken wing. I mean, it looked like he could take off a fly when he tried to shoot.
He had those big old long arms. He's almost like you don't even know what to do with them.
Gangly, yeah, and so he didn't get a lot of recruitment because it was a terrible praying mantis type shot. And so but Brandon Watts played point guard for his high school team. He rebounded, he was tough, he defended, he was high motored. And, once he came to UNCP, I think he ended up being a career 37, 38% 3-point shooter after working with them. And he ends up being all-time winningest player in school history, I believe, or was the all-time winningest player in school history until Keith Pruitt. And Watts was third all-time, first conference championship ever, because he impacts the game in other ways. Watts as an example, Watts has been through a game where he can't make a three. Okay, well, what else are you going to do? How else are you going to help your team win outside of shooting the basketball? And I think especially for our perimeter players, that's one thing, and then, of course, without being said, defense. If they don't guard, if they're not interested in guarding, we're not interested in recruiting them. They got to be able to show aptitude defensively, or it's a non-negotiable.
And then I guess conversely with that, obviously you can take the exact opposite of things you said. You can't shoot if you don't defend, whatever the case. But what is one of the big pet peeves that you see watching players play in that type of setting? That the one thing that's like, there's absolutely, I don't care if he's a 100% 3-point shooter, I'm not going to recruit this kid. What's the biggest pet peeve of yours?
I think showing disrespect to teammates.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's not only is it, I don't care how talented you are. If you don't get along with your teammates, and if you're going to cause issues, be a locker room lawyer, if you will, as a terminology, then they don't want you. And there's been several players that have gone through the years that have been very, very talented. They've gone to have pretty good careers, and we didn't recruit them. And I remember you asking one coach after a game, hey, it seems like there's a rift between him and his teammates. He said, yeah, they don't see eye to eye. And I said, well, with any of them? He said, no, none of them. Well, that's probably not a good thing. So, that to me is a non-starter. If you're not a good teammate, if you're not enthusiastic for your teammates, if you're upset because you didn't get the ball, but your teammate made a great play and you don't cheer for your teammate, you don't help them off the floor, that's where our recruiting is. There's just no getting past that.
And keeping on that recruiting trend, now is the time that recruiting really picks up typically during non-quarantine times. With things at an absolute standstill right now, what are you and your staff doing, I guess, to kind of still maintain the recruiting buzz going and acquire multiple commits during this time as well, which you have done. But what are y'all doing kind of to keep the recruiting buzz going, put UNCP's name out there and still kind of recruit kids?
It's tough. I don't want to share too many of our staff secrets, but, I think the biggest thing I think right now for us is trying to find a balance of showing love, staying in communication, but not bugging them. I mean, when you wake up every morning, you don't go to the office. You're like, well, I might so-and-so. And then it's like the 5th day in a row, you've tried to start a conversation and they're getting annoyed. I mean, and I remember being annoyed by coaches, once going back to when I was recruited. I remember some coaches call me at 8 a.m. on a Saturday. And I'm like, there's no way I'm going there. If they don't understand that this is the only time I could sleep in during the week, then we have a lot of other problems we got to address. But So, trying to stay in contact with recruits without bugging them, trying to make sure we push out the success that our programs had, whether it be social media or just, basic communication through coaches or parents or AU or whatever the case may be about, that in the last 6 years, UNCP has either started or ended in the top 25 in the country the last 6 years in a row. Stuff like that we want them to know about us, but also, like I said, we don't want to overwhelm them or bug them. We want to show them the product. We want to show them where we see them fitting into our product, but also not bugging them. We're like, they're just so annoying. So it's been the kind of that fine line, that balance, but trying to stay in context, trying to push out, how great of a situation it is at UNC Pembroke, but also not doing it to where it's annoying.
Absolutely. And I guess kind of staying on that same theme, but looking on the other side of things, parents, players, they're always, asking, how can they get seen? How can they get recruited? We're being slept on and all that kind of stuff. During this time, of quarantine, of not being able to play, of not having events to go to, what are some things, in your opinion, that players or parents can do to get themselves in front of head coaches, to be able to, put themselves on the radar without being able to necessarily play during this time? What are some things that they can do to get themselves recruited?
It's tough right now because, like just speaking for myself, I mean, a lot of the stuff that we do, how we recruit is a lot of it's eye test, in person. I think that's a huge part. It's hard. It's really hard and once again, this is different. Colleges do different things in different ways, but it's really hard for myself to feel as connected, as confident in a recruit if I don't get to see him in person or meet him in person or talk to him. So, but as far as, to get recruited, I think it goes both ways with the annoyance thing. If we're getting blown up every single day with emails and we haven't responded, it probably has nothing to do with, it probably means we're not interested. And I know that, college coaches can communicate a little better, but at some point it just gets annoying. But, always having the ability to have full game film, full highlights, GPA, test scores, and, like I said, there's social media is a great thing. Email is a great thing, allowing because not college coaches aren't sitting and not doing research right now. They're trying to find guys. And the way they do that's through social media, through email, through high school coaches, AAU coaches, having them touch base, but also finding that time, because coaches will, if it gets to a part where they're just getting constantly blown up, coaches will turn the other way as well, just like recruits will if we're bothering the heck out of them. So, once again, having the different avenues of someone that knows you, that's confident in you, that has connections, having them reach out to the coaches they know. And I think you've probably said it to recruits before, in college coaching, it's a brotherhood. So if we get reached out about a kid that we don't have a position for or doesn't fit how we play, but we know somebody that does, we'll pass along the information as well as anybody else. But ticking off coaches in this process prevents that kind of communication with other coaches. So once again, finding a balance of, hey, this is what we got. This is our style of play. This is what I'm good at, strengths and weaknesses. And then if it works, great. If it doesn't, maybe we'll find, but we can push it along or find the next opportunity.
So if they do reach out to schools, if they've identified themselves as a D2 player, they're reaching out to a couple of D2 schools, what pertinent information do you think that they should have? You mentioned that putting in GPA, putting in contact, putting in full game film. Who should they reach out to on the staff? I mean, like what kind of would be the process of sending a blind email? If say your high school coach isn't helping, or you couldn't play AAU ball because you had to work or something like that, sending out blind emails or contact or whatever the case. What would you say pertinent information is, and how would somebody go about doing that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously GPA, test score, I think team record, what your team did this year is big, because we don't typically recruit players that are coming from programs that don't be as successful. So for us, if we see somebody from Nebraska that was on a losing record team, typically, we'll look, but it's not something we're probably going to pursue. And college coaches, I mean, there's literally guys on staffs across the country that their entire job is to look at emails and to see and to break down exactly, okay, this guy fits what we do. I'm going to pass this along to the head coach, or, you need to look at this kid. But GPA, test score, team record, statistics are huge. You'd be shocked how many emails we get that have zero stats in there. I think you've got to have statistics. I think another piece of pertinent information, especially for coaches that are outside the region you're recruiting, is other than just the regular "I'm interested" email, is why are you interested? If you're emailing me from Alaska, why are you interested in UNCP? just because I was a coach that you looked up online, or is because you have family in the area, or you visited there as a kid and always liked the, Outer Banks. I mean, stuff like that, because especially now, college coaches are getting 20, 30 emails a day from recruits. And I mean, it's crazy. So, the more you can make it a personal email, the more you can make it relatable, the more you can make it seem like you're genuinely interested and you're not just sending out a blanket. I love the emails that Coach Richards, I'd love to play for the University of Tampa. Okay, well, if you want to play at Tampa, email the coach at Tampa. Where you got the wrong email, So, but putting in the connection of why you're genuinely interested in the university, that makes us be like, oh wow, so this person has actually done their research. They're actually genuinely interested in UNCP, and it's not just a blanket email they sent to about 150 other coaches.
Yeah, absolutely, that makes sense. And I guess finally wrapping things up here, whenever I go down to UNCP, all I tend to hear about is these collard green sandwiches. As a fellow food connoisseur as yourself, I trust your opinion here. What exactly is a collard green sandwich, and are they worth the hype?
Well, you've done your research. Collard green sandwiches are little pieces of heaven that are made typically during the summer at Lumbee Homecoming there in Pembroke. Now, we'll say my first time at UNCP, I remember Coach Miller took me to get a collard green sandwich and grape ice cream, which is like, that's what you do. And collard green basically is a flat fried piece of cornbread, 2 flat fried pieces of cornbread with collards and usually some fat back in the middle. So they are not very big, and I'm a big guy, so I thought maybe I should eat 2 of them. Well, one's enough. And after eating 2, it was a struggle. I think I was sweating grease out of my pores. But I will say that I have evolved since then, now doing, being a part of the community and saying, and there is some unbelievable collard wraps. They're almost like egg rolls with collards and fat back in them. Wow. And if you come down to Lumbee Homecoming, I know exactly the place I'll take you. They're legendary for their collard wraps. I don't think I can say the name on here, but I'll take you to them, and you're going to love them because they're fantastic. And then we'll get some grape ice cream, and then you'll feel a part of the Pembroke community.
Be part of the community. I'm always down for a good meal.
Oh yeah.
But for everything else, I guess that wraps it all up. Is there anything else that you'd like to leave everybody with?
No, I just wanted to say best of luck to you, Jamie. You're obviously very highly respected in this area, and in your next endeavor, I think we're excited as representing college coaches, we're excited to see what you have next.
Well, I appreciate that. I very much appreciate that. But for everybody, Drew Richards, new head coach at UNC Pembroke, make sure y'all check them out. Make sure you catch a game and look at everything there. I'm Jamie Shaw. I appreciate y'all watching. Thank you very much. That was some good stuff. We're very excited to see what Drew brings to the Pembroke family. We're sure it's going to be nothing but success. We'd like to thank Drew Richards for joining us on the Absolute Basketball Experience. It was quite a good conversation. We learned a lot about him as a person, as a player, as a coach, and his experiences coming throughout. Be sure you click on this to subscribe to the channel. Make sure that you share this interview across your platforms. We'd love for everybody to hear his story and what they got going on there. And also, please comment what you would like to hear next from us. Comment below. We want to hear from you. What players, what coaches, what interviews you'd like to hear coming up from us next. In the meantime, thank you very much for listening. I'm Jamie Shaw with the Absolute Basketball Experience.